Hi everyone, Lukas from Gisbert and in this video I'm going to give you my review of the Fuji 50 to 140mm. Now, let's go back a year ago, and I was shooting Nikon, and I did a full switch from Nikon to Fuji. But at the time when I was a Nikon shooter, the 70 to 200 VR2 f2.8 was my main lens. I was using this lens more than any others at wedding, for portraiture or anything. It was just really my go-to lens for pretty much anything. As a portrait photographer, we look for different things in a lens, and this was just meeting everything I wanted. It gave me excellent bokeh, sharpness at 2.8. Rarely went up or down to 3.2 or 4, maybe for group shots at wedding, but most of the time I was at 2.8. And excellent color, saturation, contrast, hardly taking any flare. It was just the perfect lens. I had nice compression, so I mean it was really the perfect lens for portraiture. And having even the 85 on the side, I was picking the 70 to 200 most of the time, despite the size of the thing. Now, obviously, when I switched it to Fuji didn't have an equivalence to 70 to 200, and that was something I really missed when I moved on to Fuji. But they recently released the 50 to 140mm, which, great news. There is a lens which is going to give me what a 70 to 200 give me. Well, let's take one step at a time, okay? Now, if you've watched, I've watched lots of YouTube videos about that lens and the reviews and seen samples, and everything looks very, very good. Unfortunately, if you're looking for a positive review here, that's not really what you're going to get. Anyway. So this is the 50 to 140mm on my little stand here, and as you can see, it's quite a big lens. But let's have a look at the construction first. Now, this lens is made out of metal. It's one of the most well-made lens I've ever seen. It really is amazing. The focal length ring, the focal ring is really big. So when you put your hand on the lens, you can really feel it. I remember on my old 70 to 200, it was quite slimmer than that. And you get used to it, but here, you really have your hand on it. The focus ring is at the top, and again, as smooth as the other one. There is like some kind of rubber, which is really, really well made for the focal ring. For the focus ring, it's metal. Apart from this, it's an all-around metal lens. You also got quite a big hood, as you can see, and something which comes with is just something for your tripod, so it allows you to put your tripod. As a portrait photographer, I kind of took this off. Now, I didn't really need it. But the hood is made of plastic and it has some kind of opening here. I've not actually looked what it's for, I didn't really bother. But it's a big hood, so if you take the hood, you can see quite a big size. The hood is about the size of my 56mm here. So, big hood. The cap is one of the new cap, which is much better than the old one, which was like that. So the difference is you get a good grip, it's really big, it really kind of fits onto the lens. So that is really, really good. The bottom cap is the same one as all the other lens, and so on, so on. Right. Okay, so let's have a look at the size. Okay, so that is the 50 to 140mm, and that is the 56mm. Now, one of the reasons I went onto Fuji was for the size. Here, as you can see, I could probably fit 2.5 56mm to put one 50 to 140mm. So we kind of going off the purpose of me changing. One of the purpose of me changing from Nikon to Fuji is the size. It's a big lens and it's heavy, When you put this onto the XT one, which has the grip, then Let's put the hood on. If I walk 20 meters this way, and you look at me and I tell you that's a DSLR with a 70-200, you will believe me, because it's just a huge set. It really is really big, you know, and you know that is okay. You know, it allows you to give kind of stability to your equipment, and when you're shooting, stability can be pretty good depending on where you're shooting. Now the OIS on this is just incredible. I've never seen something like that. Shooting at 140 millimeter at f2.8, 1/8 of a second, I was able to get sharp shots, and that is not given to any system. And this system is OIS, and that's the stability which work inside the lens. The lens is funny because it does make a noise. I will try to. So the stability on and off, you hear a noise. Let's see if you can hear it. There is like some kind of movement or something which happening inside, and this is obviously the stability working. I've got to say that the stability really works well, better than any lens I've used before. Let's put it back on. Okay, so yes, as I say, you know, the design, the construction of the lens is amazing. It really is. You know, it's weather resistant, so this allows you to take pictures like that, which I've taken with that lens. And you know, I would have been a bit cautious if I used another lens. Okay, so let's talk about the performance of the lens, you know, on the field, because that's what interests me. If you're looking for example of sharpness, let me just tell you, this lens is sharp as a prime lens. It really is super sharp from 2.8 to f11. I've not really tested beyond that. John Orr group, which is called Lukas group, and I will put samples there. It'll be easier because I don't want to go into a pixel peep review. I really want to give you what's is like hands-on. So obviously the first thing is that the contrast, the colors, the sharpness is kind of matching the good lens of Fuji. You know, you won't get a difference. You know, you will see it's really good quality, super sharp, you know, really nice, and it kind of is very consistent between all the lenses you're using. And that's what I like about Fuji, is because whichever lens you're going to use for your workflow, you can kind of work the same way, because you won't have a difference like in the Nikon or maybe Canon line, where you get different quality for different lenses. Here, you feel like you're only working with high-end lens, pretty much. Even the 18-55, which I find incredible. Anyway, going back to the 50-140. The autofocus, it looks like it's major improvement compared to using for another lens like one of the primes or the 18-55, which I have. The focus is super fast, really quick, and it can track very well. I was actually tracking dogs running towards me doing some tests. I will post some little pictures here so you can see, and it was pretty much giving me you know, 100% of sharp pictures. You know, one or two maybe at the beginning where it had to be a struggle to get on, but once you get onto the subject and follow it, it just works well. So the autofocus is amazing on this thing. The bokeh, well, this is where things start to get a bit bad. Okay, one of the reasons I use the 70-200 Nikon is because the bokeh was amazing. On this one, I'm going to be totally honest, the bokeh is rubbish. It really is crap, you know. I mean, I was comparing image with a shot at 2.8 at 140 to a subject which was, you know, 5-6 meters away, and comparing to the 70-200 f4, and I found even the f4 had a better and smoother bokeh. The bokeh is really, it's not smooth, it's not buttery, it's just not there, and this kind of makes you wonder why, you know, who is that lens for? And the more I use it, I love there is the compression, there is the autofocus, but you know, the bottom line is that one of the reasons I switched from Nikon to Fuji was to kind of first reduce the size, but I want to keep some certain quality. Shooting with this as a portrait photographer or wedding photographer, I'm just not getting it. I'm just not getting what I want, and the quality that comes out, despite a sharp shot and nice color and so on, not having that bokeh which in my opinion, kind of really kind of show the quality of a portrait lens, is not there. And the 56 is, 90% of the time my go-to lens. Now, yes, this lens is has a purpose in my bag because it does have the reach 240, which is the equivalent of about 208. And it's really, really fast autofocus. So at wedding days, it can really kind of do its job well at moments which are really critical, like for example, the bride walking down the aisle with the father. If I was with the 56, I would be a bit scared. With this, I would have no problem. I'd be happy. I can shoot them from far coming down, no problem at all. Or if I was shooting, for example, kids running towards me, that's something I like to do when I do a family portrait where I have kids running towards me. I take pictures of them coming. And with this, it's just so easy to do. It's like going back to DSLR in quality of the autofocus. That is that good. But the problem with that is that the size is, well, as you can see, it's massive. I can show you the other the other Fuji because I'm filming on now. But, putting this lens with the XT1 and the grip, it's like going back to the DSLR edge, and that is something that bothers me in some way. It is great quality, but the problem is it's just too big, and it's not a portrait lens in my opinion. This lens was not built by Fuji for portrait. It was made for sport, for people who are looking for action, and for which maybe some, I don't know, wildlife photographers with the teleconverter which are gonna come out with. That could actually be a really, really good wildlife photographer lens, despite the bokeh, which I think is quite important in wildlife too. But as a portrait photographer, this is just not ideal. That's as simple as that. It's too big. As I said, when you compare this to the 56, I get better result with this. Yes, I do get compression with that, but that is pretty much the only advantage I have on this, and the reach. With this, I get really, really smooth bokeh. The size is really, really small, and it's as sharp as this one, if not more. So, in my opinion, if you are a portrait photographer, wedding photographer, just be careful on what you do because it's an expensive lens. And buying this lens for portrait when you have the 56, I would just say straight away, it's a big mistake. If you don't have either of them, just get the 56. Okay, so this is pretty much my review of the 50-140. Yes, as I say, it's not a good portrait lens. It's just as simple as that. If you like sport, that's great. Anything with action is good. The OIS works perfectly well, but you have to take in mind that for portrait, OIS doesn't really work well because when you're shooting something that moves, well, you can shoot at 1/8 of a second and have a straight shot, but a person is going to be blurry one way or another if they move. So, it's really a lens it is an excellent lens. But as a portrait and wedding photographer, it's not the best option. So I'll leave you there. I will put a few pictures which I've taken with it, and just to give you an idea of the bokeh, and I'll put the little settings on the side. But that is pretty much it. So thanks for watching. Cheers. See ya.